All right, so I know I've been beating up on the Sixers a lot recently, but it's kind of almost too easy, in all honesty. There's so much disastrous stuff going on that team recently. And in this video specifically, I just want to focus on Paul George because, oh my gosh, 1 for 7, 0 for 5 from 3, 2 points in a loss to one of the worst, maybe not worst, but worst teams in the league. Now, I will say the Nets did not trade Cam Johnson, did not trade Nick Claxton, could have made moves at the deadline to be worse than they actually are, but they're still bad. And they're still not really trying to win games on a consistent basis. And they still have designs on a top 4, or I guess I should say bottom 4 worst record in basketball. This is a game you absolutely have to win. I don't really care that Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey didn't play. You have to win it nonetheless. I know it's second night of a back-to-back. I just don't care. Kelly Oubre actually had an efficient shooting night, 10 of 16, 2 of 3 from 3. That's like a unicorn in of itself. And then Quentin Grimes, who I think is a beast, and I miss him on Dallas already, scores 30 points on efficient shooting in his own right. Like, you get a really good performance from 2 different role players tonight, and Paul George goes 1 for 7 with 2 points. Like, things have been bad for PG all season, but this feels like the icing on the cake of like, oh my gosh, this is just atrocious. And the scary part about it is he's making so much money for the next 3 seasons. I just never in a million years did I think Paul George would be this bad. Did I think he would regress a little bit this season? I thought it was certainly possible. Last season showed some signs of regression, but I never thought it would be this bad. And it's getting worse. That's the most insane part about it. When you look at his game log this season, look, he's been kind of bad all year. His first month of the season, he's 14 points a game, 28% from 3, 38% from the field. And you're like, okay, that's really bad, but it has to get better, right? Like, there's no way it's not going to get somewhat better. Second month of the season, it gets a little better. It's still not good, but in December, he's 42.5%, 34% from 3. He's averaging 16 a game. It's like, okay, slight improvement. In January, it gets noticeably better. I'll give him credit. 44.5% from 3. I mean, there's almost 45% from 3, 47% from the field. That's, while still only averaging 20.5 points per game, it's a lot closer to the Paul George of old, and the efficiency, especially from 3, is much better. And look, I get the efficiency numbers in February aren't atrocious. In fact, he's shooting 43% from 3, despite being 0 for 5 tonight. No, that feels hard to believe. I'm not sure if that factors in tonight's 3-point attempts or not. It might, and if it does, that does feel a little hard to believe. But 43%, 44%, 43% from 3. Look, I get it. But 12.3 points per game. This is a dude on a max contract. This is a guy who's expected to be a superstar. I get he's 34 years old, but we're seeing the longevity of NBA players go longer than ever. Obviously, LeBron is the poster child for that. But guys like Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, James Harden, stretching out their primes much later in their careers, Paul George just has not been able to do that this season. While the efficiency numbers the last couple months are better, this month, these last 5 games, despite the efficiency not being atrocious, is kind of one of the worst stretches of his career, considering they're 0-5 in those 5 games. Like, this team is a disaster, and Paul George is doing nothing to really help them go the right direction. I mean, and it's insane when you look at, compared to his career numbers, how bad this year has been. 37% from 3 doesn't sound bad for most NBA players, but that's the worst he's shot since like very early in his career in Indiana, where obviously he was a really good player still, but he wasn't quite PG-13 or the superstar caliber player that he became. I mean, that's obviously with the Clippers, he shot the same percentage a few years ago, but 43% from the field as well. That's 48% at the rim, or 48% from 3-point range, which is, while not a career low, also pretty bad compared to what you're used to from PG, and doing it on lower attempts and lower defensive attention, because when he was in LA, he was very often either the number 1 or number 2 option, and a lot of the time he was the number 1 option because Kawhi Leonard was injured. And I think that's an important distinction to make. For much of this season, he has either been the 2nd or 3rd option, and yes, there have been some first option games for Paul George, but this should have been a first option game for Paul George tonight, and he goes 1 of 7, 0 of 5 from 3 in 37 minutes. That is just disgusting offensively. You cannot win games when a guy that you are paying to be a max contract superstar player is playing this poorly. You just can't. I honestly don't even know how you do it. Do I have his contract? I don't have his contract pulled up, which I should have done, but it's bad. I mean, he's making a max to do this. I don't even know what you say, in all honesty, because the efficiency isn't like god awful on the surface, but it's definitely among the worst seasons of his career efficiency wise, especially in his recent career. And I just don't even know how you reckon with it, to be totally honest. Like, how does this, it's just not a max player. In today's NBA, it's not even close. He's Tobias Harris, and the Sixers got Paul George And we're literally like, oh, just please be better than Tobias Harris. Well, he's not. And that's disastrous for a team that is obviously already very bad. And I've talked about how bad this team is and how big their struggles have been as a whole lately anyway. I mean, they're 14 games under 500. They've lost 5 games in a row. They just lost to a team that you have to beat and somehow have the same record as the Nets, who have been tanking for a month. I don't even know. Like, it's unbelievably bad. They're 2 games back of the Bulls to even make the play, and the only saving grace they have is that both the Hawks and the Bulls realistically will fall apart as the year progresses, in all likelihood, because they're not really trying to win games. The Bulls already look to be falling apart, and the Hawks were falling apart after Jalen Johnson got hurt before this recent 3-game winning streak, but I don't think that'll last. It's just, look, they're bad. And they lose their first-round pick this year unless it is in the top 6, which it almost certainly is not going to be at this point because they haven't blown up on the season. If they had given up on the season a few weeks ago when I suggested that they probably should, then maybe they'd have a chance. But as of right now, it's kind of becoming too late, despite the fact that they're continuing to lose games, because you just can't really give up on the year at this point, because I guess they're pipe dream is that they somehow make the playoffs and all of a sudden everybody's healthy and all of a sudden Paul George looks like a max player and all of a sudden Joel Embiid doesn't need surgery on his knee again and all of a sudden Kelly Oubre's not a 28% three-point shooter, and it feels like a lot of big ifs for this team to have any chance at doing anything in the playoffs, because you're going to definitely, if you make the playoffs, be playing Cleveland or Boston in the first round. And honestly, it looks like that's neither of those matchups are seriously serious as that the Sixers even have a chance. And honestly, it might work in their favor if they get the 8th seed, because that seems the most likely seed for them if they do make the playoffs is that 8th seed. And if they get the 8th seed, like, that might actually work in their favor, because I think Boston would just literally demolish them in embarrassing, horrific ways. And if they get the 9 seed, if they get the 8 seed and they play against Cleveland, then like maybe they can have a chance, maybe, but I don't see it realistically. And I mean, look, plus minus wise, it's bad as a whole. Paul George has a team worst plus minus out of anybody who's a key important rotation piece on this team. Now, Caleb Martin played more so in the really bad start to the season, to be fair. Andre Drummond is bad. Jed Doughton's a rookie, I believe anyway. Ricky Council's a rookie. No, actually, I think he might be in a second. I don't know. He's a rookie or a second year. I'm not even totally sure. Eric Gordon is old. Kyle Lowry is a disaster. Tyrese Maxey has actually been pretty good, but he started the season badly. But Paul George is right at the bottom. 15th best team plus minus on the team at a minus 59. Like, he's having a bad year. He's not positively impacting winning. His efficiency is down a bit. His scoring across the board is down a ton compared to what you would expect out of him. And look, I get he's the 3rd option on team now, but he's been the 2nd or 1st option a lot this year and has not been able to live up to that whatsoever. This has been a disastrous year for Paul George, and I'm not honestly entirely sure that it's going to get better at this point in his career. I think he kind of just might be one of those guys who there's 3 more years at a max level on his contract, and we're like, good Lord, that's one of the worst contracts in basketball. I think we're already reaching that point halfway through his 1st season on this 4-year deal. And that's bad for the Sixers, because contending with a bad contract in this NBA, when this CBA and all that is honestly a near impossibility. Like, this is the type of contract that absolutely handicaps the team, and didn't see it coming at all. But I feel bad for Philly fans when it comes to basketball. Now, luckily for Philly fans, they just won the Super Bowl, so I don't think they care that much at the end of the day. But with that being said, that's gonna do it for the video. I hope y'all did enjoy. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. Be back with more NBA content very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.